Hi, welcome back. In this session, we'll try to discuss the vulnerability scanning using other tools. In the previous session, we talked about the Nmap scripting engine. So now that we have to list the IP addresses of the target and their open ports and services on each machine. So it is time to scan the target for vulnerability. That is, vulnerability is the weakness in the software or system configuration that can often be exploited. So vulnerability can come in many forms, but most often they are associated with missing patches. So vendors often release patches to fix a known problem or vulnerability. So, unpatched software and systems often lead to quick penetration tests because some vulnerabilities allow remote code execution. So, remote code execution is definitely one of the holy grails of hacking. So, to scan systems for vulnerabilities, we will use a vulnerability scanner. So, there are several good scanners are available to you, but for this session, we will try to focusing on the tool called the Nessus. So, as said, for this scanning, we need the target systems. So let me just quickly show you that I have three systems are there. One is Windows XP, which is running on the IP address 192.168.1.4. I have two Kali Linux machines. So the one Kali Linux which is running uh, uh, so let me just find out its IP configure by just giving the command ifconfig. We'll find the IP address of this machine. So the machine IP address is 192.168.1.5. I have another machine to run this. Let me just find out its for you. Let me just show you by giving the command ifconfig, and this machine is having the IP address 192.168.1.6. So now let us try to, let me just clear this, reduce the size of this. So yes, run the configure, you will find the IP address is 192.168.1, and this machine is running on 192.168.1.1. So in the previous case, issued the command that by giving the nmap or script category in the script by running this script on the nmap tool, and the category is vulnerable category for our target machine Windows operating system is 192.168.1.4. Add to speed of the scan, we have just given the minus T4. So it started scanning all the common 1000 ports. Out of that, 996 ports are closed TCP ports, and the remaining four ports are open. There, one is 192, 135 TCP, that is open, and the service which is running on this one is ms rpc, Microsoft rpc, and one another port is 139 port number, where the service which is running on this port number is netbias, and for 445 which is using the TCP connection for connection establishment between our system and this target system, and this is also open. And when we run this script on a map for this particular category, the script results given there is a vulnerability, that is the SMB vulnerability MS17 version of 17010. So which allows the attacker or pen testers to execute a remote code execution vulnerability on the server. So by no, this is what we observed in the previous session. So now we'll try to look at the another tool we call the Nessus tool. So Nessus is a good and a great tool that is available on the Nessus. target. Let me just show you this. Yeah. So if you go to the tenable.org, or you make or tenable.com products Nessus. So this the Tenable, the makers of Nessus allows you to download a full-fledged version and get a key for free. So if you are going to use the Nessus in a corporate environment, you will need to sign up for the professional feed, rather than the home feed. Or if for the education purpose, the Tenable for education, it is free. There is no need to pay any money for that. So by just to installing Nessus is very straightforward. So to it runs on all major operating systems, including Linux, Windows, OS X, or FreeBSD, and more. So Nessus runs using a client server architecture, which allows you to have multiple clients connect to the server instance if you want to. So once set up, the server runs quietly in the background, and you interact with the server through a browser. So in general, to install Nessus, you need to complete the steps. First, you need to download the installer from this the Nessus. So and then we need to register for a non-commercial home feed, that is Nessus Essential. So for education purpose, we use the Nessus Essential, and that can be downloadable from here. Once you download, you need to select the version and the platform. The platform version is Linux, Ubuntu, AMD, which is required to install on the virtual machine. So then to register, once you click on downloading this, then you will be getting this downloadable file. So the Nessus crew will email you a unique product key that can be used to register the product. So please be sure to pay a special attention to the end user license agreement that restricts how a home feed can be used. So there you find these signing keys that will be, because for different users different signing key is required. So then install the program and create a Nessus user to access the system. So you then enter your the Nessus essential key, product key, and then it updates the plugins. After that, you can use a browser to connect to the Nessus server. So for this demonstration, I just downloaded the Nessus, and then we need to install this. So how to install? By using the command sudo, using the dpkg command. And for installation, we use the switch, the minus I, and then start by giving this downloaded file, which is there in the when I downloaded, it is there in the download directory. So by just pasting it here and just enter it, so it will ask you the sudo password, because we are running under the administrative privileges. So by giving the sudo password, it start installing the Linux, I mean the Nessus tool. So in general, to install this Nessus, you need to complete all these programs. First, you need to download and then create a Nessus username and password, and then giving the activation key, it will allow you to run this Nessus. So once the plugins are updated, you can run this by issuing this command. It is giving that you can start Nessus scanner by typing this in the terminal. So let me run this under sudo command. That is going to run this Nessus D service, which is run by giving this command, that the minus in the bin folder in system control, giving the command start Nessus D. So it will start running the service. Once it runs the service in the browser, if you give this https kali and the port number is 8834, by clicking on this, it leads to by running this particular service. So then, as said, it will ask you that what is the username and password that you need to give it. because I already activated the username and password here by giving the activation key. It will ask you the username and password, and then it start update the plugins. So as of now, all the plugs are updated. So by just giving entering inside this, you can start running these scans. So once one of the key component of Nessus is the plugins, so which are going to run the all the resources, the plugins. So a plugin is a small block of code that is sent to the target machine to check for a known vulnerability. So Nessus has literally thousands of plugins. So if you go to the settings, in the settings you will find all the plugin digital details here. So the Nessus has literally thousands of plugins, and these will need to be downloaded the first time you start the program. The default installation will set up Nessus to automatically update the plugins for you. But once you have installed the Nessus server, you can access it by opening a browser and just entering either you can open it or by just entering the your local address, that https that 127.0.0.1 running at the port 8834. So if you receive a message that connection untrusted message or a certificate warning, you can ignore this for now by adding an exception and continuing. So Nessus will take a few minutes to initialize and process the plugins that were recently downloaded. So once everything has been processed, you will be prompted with a login screen as said, and enter your username and password you created when installing the program. So once you log into the program, you will be presented with the main Nessus screen like this, this screen. So so you can navigate this Nessus by clicking the various headings at top of this page, like the scans or settings. Okay, so each heading represent a different component of the Nessus tool, including the results, scans, templates, policies. That you can find the new scans or import or new folders, and you can find the my scans and those. If you click on the settings, you find all the remaining settings that you will find: advanced setting, proxy server settings, smtv servers, password management, scan healthy, notifications. So before we can use the Nessus, we need to either create a the custom policy uh, in the scanning. Either you can create any custom policy uh, for this policies that you can create on your own, or make use of one of the predefined policies that Nessus creates for us. So you can create a custom policy by just clicking on this policy tab at the so that it will ask you to create a scan. It means you can find the scan policy, or you can create a new policy here by clicking on the new policy. You can select which policy that you want, because these are the predefined scanners are these. So, to set up a scan policy, you need to provide a name. So, if you are going to set up the multiple policies, you should also enter a description. Suppose if you are going to create a policy that host discovery, so this host discovery, need to provide the host name and its description tag. So note that the HTML interface, which is now enabled by default and has the safe check menu under the configuration that is advanced. So if you go to these settings, in the settings, if you go to the advanced settings, you just search for the the safe checks, because uh, that will give the If you go on for safe check and check whether it is set up safely or not. So you will want to set up safe checks in most cases, which is enabled by default. But the reason for this is simple. Some plugins and checks are considered dangerous because they check for the vulnerability by attempting to actually exploit the system. So be aware that removing the safe checks, check has the potential to cause the network and system disruptions or even takes system offline also. So by ensuring that you have safe check, and you can avoid unintentional network disruptions by setting the is as safe check is yes. So next we move into the scan policies, which allow you to customize what type of policies you can use within the Nessus interface. So by just clicking on the scans, and in the scans, if you go on the scan policies, okay, so for this purpose we will use the default, but take a moment to click the policy template, that select one of the default template or the scan template, or create a new policy. So if we just go with the scan template, so here you can find the scan templates which are created. You may create on your own, or you can use the existing one. By reviewing these various options, by clicking each of these options the on this, either if you want to scan for only host discovery, you can go with this simple scan, or if you want to scan with the basic network scan, that is full system scan, that is what are the number of hosts are there on the network, and what operating systems that they are using, what are their vulnerabilities. So you can keep on going. For web application test, you can use this template, scan template for web applications. And for credential patch audit, you may use this scan, the credential patch audit scan. Okay. Whereas in nmap script, we use the for credentials purpose, we use either brute category or the authentication category. So you can notice that in general settings, the credentials plugins, if you go to the general setting, clicking on general settings, we find the plugin details, encryption details, the credentials, okay, the license utilizations that you can find. So this will take you through each of the remaining pages where you can set the additional options for your policies. So if we keep on going, suppose go to the policy, go to the scan template. If you want to scan the basic scan or advanced scan, if we go on that, it will ask you the settings, the credentials, and the plugins page. So the credentials, you must give the host name, that it is suppose Windows host. So here you can give the description, that looking for the vulnerability, and you can give the host IP address. We know the host IP address, that 192.168.1.4, where our Windows machine is running on this particular IP address, that 192.168.1.4. So, and then by giving these options, once your scan has been you only need to set up your own policy one time. So once your scan has been suppose updated, by you can scan this in a different way by scheduling it, or in the general you can check for the scan or trash. So in which folder you want this, so you can select the folder of that. Then in the notification, you can email this recipient by just sending the notifications once this completes, the scan is completed. So in the discovery, how you are going to discovering this, the remote host pinging. So ping the remote host, it works like ping command in the terminal. So then test the local Nessus host. and use the fast network discovery or not. So when it is disabled, if a host responding to ping, Nessus attempts to avoid the false positives. So in this pinging, you may ping to the target either by ARP, that is the address resolution protocol, where it is having the MAC addresses. So this only works on the local network, and you may ping the target by using the TCP connection, that is built-in connection. So there will be a three handshaking process will take place to establish a connection between source and the destination. Or for simply, you may use the ICMP, the Internet Control Message Protocol, to check whether the destination is reachable or not. You can set the maximum number of retries that you can specify here. Specify the number of attempts to retry the pinging the remote host. Why? Because if you continuously pinging that, the remote host may identify that somebody is trying to reach out, and your IP address may be blocked, so that you may not reach next time. So it is better to send only two connections at a time, so the destination side, they cannot identify that somebody is reaching that. Or for your broadcasting purpose, you may use the UDP service. Or no, I'm just leaving this as default only here. So now that you have the once you set up this, you can click on save, so that your policy is been the setup. So once your scan has been submitted, you will be able to use the policy to perform the vulnerability scans against the target machine. Our target machine is Windows, so we can start scanning by just clicking on the launch this particular the vulnerability scanning on the target machine. So then it starts scanning that on this vulnerable machine. So to set up a scan, you need to click the scans, then that link locate in the top menu here, the scans, and then followed by the new scan button located on the right side. And then Nessus will bring up a new window and can be used to configure and customize your scan. So you can enter the individual addresses to scan a single target, or a list of IP addresses to scan the multiple targets. So in our example, we are just giving the single target. So before launching the scan, you need to provide a name that select a policy and enter the IP addresses for targets. So we have given the name Windows and scheduled the schedule is on demand one, or you can schedule at what time it requires to be scanned to avoid the destination to detect your scanning. So doing so will allow you to quickly locate and sort your scan results at the later date. So you can enter your target IP address individually in the scan target box, or if you have your target IP address saved to a text file, you can use the browser to for uploading the scan in the target file. Okay, so once your options are set, you can click this create scan button and the lower right. So Nessus will provide you with information about the progress of your scan while it is running. So when the Nessus finishes the scan, you will be able to review the results by clicking this results option. By clicking on the scan, you will find the vulnerabilities on this particular host. So there are 20 vulnerabilities are there on this particular host. Out of that, still this scan details is running. Out of that, you're finding that there are the vulnerabilities are ranked like the average, good, low, medium, high, or critical. So it gives the lot of information. So here you can see that the scan details are completed, and the severity base from where the scan details are taken means from the CVSS version 4. Okay, and this host is having 25 vulnerabilities, and out of 25 vulnerabilities, 3 vulnerabilities are critical, 3 vulnerabilities are high vulnerabilities in range and ranking. Three are the medium, the remaining are the lower case. So once we have completed the port scanning and vulnerability scanning for each of our targets, so we should have enough information to begin attacking the system. So you can either use the apt get command, or you can download the .db package from the Nessus site. The .deb file can be installed. You know, the using the command like in the command prompt. Once that is done, then you can use this command, the command prompt, by giving the sudo command dpkg, and for installing the file that .deb package from the Nessus site, we needs to give the name of .deb file to install. So if you are running Kali or the backtrack, you can install via apt get by simply opening a terminal and issue the command like apt get. In the Kali Linux, we can simply use the sudo apt get command and just uh, use the command install Nessus. So next step, next set up a Nessus user by just entering. This will ask you the root password. Once you install this Nessus, then by issuing the command sudo get opt. So the Nessus users, by entering this command opt Nessus, that has been Nessus hyphen add user. Yeah. So after issuing this add user command, you will be asked to choose a username and password. So be sure to answer each questions that is pertaining the Nessus user setup. So once a user has been created, uh, oh, there is something wrong with that. Okay, let me just clear this. Okay. So once the user has been created, you need to activate your registration key, but which we already done that. So to activate your registration key by running the command that opt, you can run the command like opt by giving the Nessus command where you download it, and in the bin directory, you're going to issue the Nessus fetch by giving the Nessus fetch and giving the registry that the register your registering key, that is the registered with your key. So whatever key that you got, that your registration key. So by issuing this command, but we have done, we just downloaded and we installed it in another way. So you will need to place this your registration key with the key you received from the Tenable. So the Nessus key is only good for a single installation. So if you need to reinstall, you will have to register for a new key again. So once everything is successful, then you will be allowed to the scan this. Once you are scanned this, you can click on this to go for more information. So if you click on the critical the vulnerabilities on the target system. It will give you the complete description that the Microsoft Windows XP unsupported installation detection is there. So it gives the description that the remote host is running Microsoft Windows XP operating system that supports for this operating system by the Microsoft ended in the April 8 2004. And it gives the other information also, the what kind of the vulnerabilities that it will give. It gives the risk information here that the CSSV 3.0 base score is there, and the vulnerability information here is the exploits are available means, yeah, it's true, exploit is there, and the exploit is the exploits are available. So use this exploitation for doing the for connecting with the target system. So in this vulnerability, it gives other information also. By clicking the next, it will use the following Windows version is installed, that is Windows XP Service Pack 2, that is Microsoft Windows XP Service Pack 2 version is given. So if you go and check the other vulnerabilities, suppose the remote desktop procedure, that's whether it is open or not. So this is also opened. The remote host connection means the remote version of the remote desktop procedure is vulnerable to man in the middle attack, that is also open here. And if you go on checking the Microsoft Windows version, that is the mixed version, you can find here the vulnerability names, and the versions here is the vulnerability name MS 17 dot 101. This vulnerability is there, so this is a missing package. So for Microsoft Windows SMB server, this is a vulnerable code. So by just using this vulnerable code, you can search whether these patches are there or not in your machine. So how you can do in the exploitation, the next phase of this, by finding this vulnerability, in the next phase we use the MSF console, the MSF, sorry, the MSF console to run the Metasploit, So it takes few seconds to start, and we in the previous scanning we identified that there is a vulnerability on the operating system. So we are going to, in the next session, we are going to talk about in details about this Metasploit. But in this Metasploit, by running this Metasploit, we simply give the search command, and we identified that uh, uh, the version MS17010 is this patch is missing. This is a vulnerability on the target system. So by just searching that whether this MS17 010, whether this module is there or not in the Metasploit. So you can find this module for finding for exploiting the Windows for the SMB server. For executing this, you may issue this particular command by just by giving this the use option 1, where it is exploiting Windows, which is going to execute the remote code will be executed on this one. So by just issuing this, you can set this particular metropater code, and you just try to look the options, what are the options are available on this. So in this options, the remote host is our local host is 192.168.1.5, but whereas the remote host is not at set. So you can set this, the remote host is not at set, and it requires to set this remote host. So we can just use the command set the remote hosts, and the remote host ours is 192.168.1.4. By setting this, you can run the payload, or you can exploit the command that, simply if you give the run command, it is going to connect the metropreter. So by just issuing the command, the cell, it will allow you where you are working now. Here, by issuing the command, the who am I, you can see that. Oh, yeah. So you are working on the Windows System 32, which is running on the C drive, or you can simply exit this by going this meterpreter. You can check who am I. So it will give you. Oh, okay. So from here you can run the command over there. So you can use the options here to give you what are the different options are available to run on the target machine. Oh, so it is going to run all the, it will show you all the files. You are able to access the files from the target machine side. So we talk more about this meterpreter, and we talk more about this in the next lecture. We just try to execute it, but how these are going to be helpful, that means this is another way of finding the vulnerabilities of your system. Using those vulnerabilities, you can connect to the target. So with this, I would like to stop this session. In the next session, we'll try to discuss more about the meterpreter, or for exploitation case.